Hi everyone, this is Sanjana from Mockcat, the only place where you get directly coached and mentored by 99.9 plus percentilers. So the second most important exam is a few short weeks away. So hopefully your prep is more or less done and now you're revising and taking up mocks to finalize your test strategy. And in this video, I'm going to give you a couple of strategies which you can use based on what works better. We'll analyze this exam, understand how it's different, what are the unique things that XAT has which other exams, particularly CAT, don't, and then use that to come up with a couple of strategies which you can adopt to make sure that you get as high a score in XAT as possible to get a call from XLRI and multiple other top B schools. You probably already know these details. The exam is happening on the 5th Jan. This year, there's been a slight change in the paper format. We don't have essay, right? So that's not part of this 3-hour marathon that XAT is. We're going to have 170 minutes for 76 questions, 26 in verbal, 22 in decision making, and 28 in quant BI, making that the longest. After that, you're going to have 10 minutes separately for 25 GK questions. Now, remember that your XAT percentile is only based on these 76 questions. Your GK score is something that, as far as I know, goes only to XLRI. And there are no implications in the sense that when it comes to your shortlisting or your final selections, there is no separate criteria for your GK score. This is just something that they will take into consideration, probably while giving you points for your personal interview. And as far as I know, no other B school has access to your GK score. So these 76 questions that you're going to take up in almost 3 hours are extremely important. Now remember that the split that I'm giving you is not something which the XAT authorities or XLRI have mentioned. What they've said is it is going to be somewhat around this. This is what it was last year. At best, there might be like a plus 1 or 2 questions, some slight tweaks which could be there. We've seen that, for example, DM, they've increased 1 question, things like that have happened. The other thing which we've seen in terms of the marking scheme is all of the questions have been multiple choice questions. You are going to get +1 if you get it right and a minus 0.25 if you get it wrong. For GK, it's a +1 and 0, so you should definitely take up all the questions. You'll anyway have less than 30 seconds per question. So just, read it. If you know, you punch in the answer. Otherwise, you punch in whatever seems likely, or, if you're going in with a letter, all unknown questions, I'll mark as B. Anything is fine. But these main 76 questions, if you get it right, it's a +1. If you get it wrong, it's a minus 0.25. And one unique thing which they've had is you can leave up to 8 questions. I presume their logic is that, they're giving us almost 3 hours for 76 questions. If you contrast it, Snap, 60 questions in 1 hour. CAT, this year we had 68 questions in 2 hours, right? Here they are saying you must take up at least 68 questions in 170 minutes. That's almost 3 hours. What happens is, if you are leaving more than 8 questions unattempted, there's going to be a penalty. So say if you've done 68, 69, 70, 71, whatever, up to 76 questions, it's fine. Let's say if you have solved 66 questions, you've marked only 66 questions. So that's 2 extra. So for those 2 extra questions that you've missed, you're going to get a minus 0.2. That's minus 0.1 into 2, right? So up to 8 is fine. Whatever more than 8 you have left unattempted, that is the part that you're going to be penalized. And that penalty, of course, the marking is going to work in such a way that, it'll, come up in different sections and so on. They could tweak it a little bit. There was 1 year when it was a minus 0.05, which is why I would recommend the moment you go in and, you're able to read the instructions, please make sure to read the instructions carefully to understand the number of questions, the question paper pattern, what the marking scheme is, and so on. But should be somewhat similar to this, and that's what we have in our mocks. Now, few more details about this exam. They've introduced a calculator, so there could be some changes. Some questions could be more conceptual. It remains to be seen how DI will be, but this can be an advantage, especially if you feel that you are a little slow in calculations or you tend to make silly mistakes. Another important thing, which is a good thing as well as a bad thing, is that we don't have sectional timers. So you can move around sections, you can come back to sections, you can take up one DM caselet and then take up one quant question and then go to verbal, do whatever you want. But they do have sectional cutoffs. So for XLRI or Xavier School of Management as it's called now, for both your business management and your HR shortlist, you are going to need to get a minimum overall and a minimum for these sections. Now this is what the minimum was last year, right? It can change, of course, a little bit, depends on how many people have signed up for XAT. I think it's about 1 lakh this year. And also, how people score, how easy or tough the exam is and so on. But please note that your sectional cutoffs are fairly high. Now, of course, your overall is quite high. Little less than what we see in the top IIMs. Definitely, for a top 10 B school, the overall percentile is a little bit lower, but the sectional cutoffs that we need to meet are fairly high. And that's particularly important for decision making. This is a section which is new for most of us. So make sure that you prepare well for this so that you are meeting the minimums that are needed. And I'll give you a few pointers as to how you can start as well in this video. Now, in terms of marks, what I would recommend is target between 30 to 40 marks. 40 marks is probably going to be more than enough for you to get 99th percentile. So if you're targeting something between this, even if your score is a little lower, you'll probably clear the cutoffs. Now let's talk about what are the good things of that. First off, of course, you have a B school which is definitely in the top 10. It's been there. It's one of the oldest B schools that we've had. It's extremely well known. The average salary for both BM and HR are pretty high, and you will probably have seniors from excel in any company that you get to. Now, one of the complications which does come up with this, of course, is that these other B schools will primarily look at your ZAT percentile. Most of them will not have sectional cutoffs. So that's one thing we will consider when it comes to the strategies. Another great thing is that in 170 minutes, this exam is giving us enough time to solve all or most of the questions. It's okay to leave some questions unattempted, even if you're getting the penalty of minus 0.1 for a couple of questions or something, you can still get a score that's high enough for XLRI. So that's something which is helpful, especially if you feel your reading speed is a little slow, your calculating speed is a little slow, or maybe you tend to get nervous, right? So that's also something which gets taken care of, because even if you're anxious and you freeze for 5 minutes, or maybe you have a slow start, right? It takes you a bit of time to warm up. All of these are fine because there's enough time to come back swinging in this exam. And because you can do it a little slowly, there's a reduced potential of silly mistakes as well. Now, the last thing is, for an institute which is in the top 10, the competition that you have is lower. If you contrast CAT and ZAT, 1 lakh people versus 3 lakh people who took up CAT this year. Of course, the number of people who turned up for the exam were less. That's going to be there here as well. So you have fewer serious takers, and a lot of the people who have signed up for ZAT would have done CAT well. In case you haven't, those are the people who are probably slowing down in their preparation. They would have, checked their scores. They know that, okay, they're going to get calls from a lot of IIMs or other top B schools. So they wouldn't be as serious about ZAT prep, which means that if you take up this prep seriously, you push through on your preparation, on mocks, use one of the strategies that I'm going to suggest and get a high score, then that's it. You're going to get multiple calls. Now, we've spoken about the positives. Let's look at what are the issues which could come up. Now, given that it's almost 3 hours, it will become tough to focus. This used to be easier for some of our students when the CAT exam was also for 3 hours, because you've practiced for 3 hours for CAT and then ZAT, and it's somewhat going in a similar line. But now that majority of our exams are 2 hours or even 1 hour, this is something that you might not have practiced for. And it's definitely difficult for anybody to sustain the focus for 170 minutes. The other thing which happens is, because you don't have sectional timers, you can just lose track of time. You go in thinking, okay, there's quite a lot of time. It's okay if I start a little slowly. Or what might happen is, you might end up spending too much time in one section. Maybe you're really good at verbal or at quant. That's typically going to happen, right? And then what you do is you start solving all of the questions in that area. Or maybe your solving speed or your reading speed is a little slow. And before you know it, 1 hour has elapsed and you haven't even finished one section. Or maybe you've given more time to the sections where you're not great at, to make sure that you're getting as much as required to meet the sectional percentiles. And before you know it, you have only half an hour or 45 minutes for your best section, which might not be enough to maximize your overall score. Now, one more thing which particularly happens in ZAT, trust me, even more than CAT, is getting stuck between 2 options. Here you're going to have 5 options, and for me, I've got a 99.98 in ZAT with a 99.998 in the verbal section, which is the equivalent of 100 percentile in CAT. And I have never been able to come out of the ZAT exam knowing whether I've then done well or whether I've done badly. You will have RCs which are shorter, which are relatively easy, but then the options will be close, whichever question it is, right? I have never been sure of any option, and I've seen that with my students as well. Already you have 5 options and you will have close options. So what we don't want to do is spend too much time thinking, is it option B or is it option D? Use the paragraph or the passage to understand, right? And then we just want to mark it and move on. We don't want to waste too much time. If it seems super hard, just leave it. And last issue which can happen is if you're not solving at least 68 questions to avoid the penalty. This is not as big a concern because minus zero point 0.1 or even minus zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 or something is not that big a deal, right? Which is why I don't recommend what a lot of people do, which is that, towards the end, if you have a lot of questions, just go in and mark B, 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 B. Personally, that's not a strategy I am too happy with. I'd prefer that, you put in the time to prepare and take mocks, take up our speed verbal, speed math, speed quant to make sure that you are improving your speed and you're getting there. And your CAT practice, of course, will help you there because here we are getting extra time. But coming back to this, if you are not solving enough questions, you are getting a penalty. So, of course, that is pulling down your score. So now we've understood the pros and cons of that. It gives us enough time, but we could lose focus or we could get stuck in one section, right? That's going to be the main concern. So how do we make sure that we maximize our score without losing focus and make the best use of the time that's been given to us? So this is the first strategy that I would recommend. This is a strategy that I've personally followed, which has got me a high score. So you go in the order of the paper, but what you do is split these 170 minutes as 40, 40, 40 for each section, right? So you start with verbal. You have, points which I've put up on the screen here, so I'm not going to read those. Then take up decision making and then take up quant. Why am I saying 40, 40, 40? You can probably make do with 50 or something. A lot of you will be like, okay, verbal is my strong section, so I want to take a little extra time. Quant is my strong section. There's 28 minutes, so I want to take up more time and so on. But the thing is, this is probably the time that you are used to, right? 40, 40, 40 is what we had in CAT. And a lot of us have taken at least 10 to 15 mocks. So we've gotten used to pushing for this much time. Now, verbal DILR and quant is not the same as verbal DM and quant, but it's somewhat similar, right? So this is something which you can take up. The other thing which happens is we tend to spend too much time either in the section that we are really good at because we want to maximize our score, or maybe in a section which we are a little weaker and we want to make sure that we solve as many questions so that we meet the minimum. Now, if you know that you have 50 more minutes left for you to go back to this, you'll get back into that CAT strategy where I'm trying out all the easier and all the doable questions. And that's what I want you to do. And that's why if you see, for example, in verbal, I'm saying start with the shorter questions, right? The vocabulary and grammar, these are questions which you can probably do in under 1 minute. Either you know the meaning or you don't, right? Either you know which is grammatically correct or you don't. Yes, you might be stuck between a couple of options, but it'll probably be easier to select something. You can also take up the inference questions, which are also called the critical reasoning questions, which are very similar to RCs, but they are much shorter, right? You'll just have a paragraph, sometimes just a couple of sentences. So you could look to take those up first, or just go for some of the RCs which you're more comfortable, and just take up all of the easier, the doable questions. You can do the same thing in the other sections. When it comes to DM particularly, what I would recommend is read the caselet, use that to help you determine which direction that you should choose. We are of course going to have more detailed videos on DM, so definitely subscribe if you haven't. But what we want to do here is make sure that we are not spending too much time double thinking and second guessing and so on, and let me come back to this question or something. In fact, what I would recommend is you might want to mark for review questions in verbal and in quant, but probably not in DM. You don't want to go back and change things. You might not do something which you mark for review saying if I have time I will come back to it. I feel like 40 minutes I've done as much as I could. So what do we do in these remaining 50 minutes? So here you have three choices. One, you could take up any section where you feel you haven't solved enough questions. So maybe it's quant and you feel that in 40 minutes I've solved only about 12 questions. That might not be enough. Maybe I have some mistakes. So let me go back in. You could also take up a section where you feel you could solve more, right? This probably is going to be your strength. For most people, either verbal is their strength or quant is their strength. So whichever you feel that in these 40 minutes, you've done enough to meet the minimum, but there are more that you can solve. So that is something which you can take up. You can definitely split in between these two also. 50 minutes is a very good amount of time. And of course, if you've marked questions for review, the way we do in CAT, right, where these are questions which are doable, but maybe they will take longer, or you just need a little bit of time to figure out, then those are also questions which you can solve. And here, as I said, I would recommend doing this in verbal and in quant DI. In DM, maybe what you do is if there's an entire set which you've not been able to solve, maybe it's a longish set or something like that, so you decided to leave it, those are maybe questions which you can mark for review. Don't go back trying to change answers for sets which you were not sure of. Like I said, just either mark something. At worst, what happens? You get a minus 0.25. Or you might just want to leave that question or leave that set if it's 2 or 3 questions together. Now, the next strategy is going to be on similar lines, but this is where you start with decision making. This is a new section you would have prepared. You take it up and you are done with it, right? 40 or a maximum of 40 minutes. My suggestion would be to stick to 40 because we are used to this format. Then you take a quant because DM, while there's a lot of logical reasoning and thinking and ethics and all of these which comes up, primarily there are caselets which you have to read. So when you are going to quant, which is nothing but maths, right? Calculation, from there, your mind is sort of getting a mental break. So you take up DM and then you take up quant DI and then you come to the other reading heavy section, which is verbal. And again, you have 50 minutes left in which you can go back to any section or take up mark for review questions. Now, one more thing which I would definitely recommend in both of these strategies is take a break, right? In fact, when it comes to that exam, I would say don't even carry water. Just get up, go and, drink water and come back. Or just stare at the screen or, just have your eyes closed, put your head down if you're comfortable, taking a 30-second or even a 1-minute break in between two sections. There is absolutely no problem with that. You have enough time. Take that time to sort of, mentally reset, go to the next section, regain your focus, all of these. In fact, what I would say is that if you're going through a section, particularly if that's not a section which is your strong suit, and you just feel fatigued, maybe it's the third section you're taking up. And if you're feeling fatigued, you're just feeling that, you're not going as fast as you wanted, maybe, you're not performing to your best, just give yourself, 30 seconds to a minute, just get up, drink water, come back if they allow you, or, just rest at your own desk and then restart. And maybe start off with smaller questions like a warm-up. These could be individual quant questions, or these could be, the vocabulary and grammar questions or something, and then get back in the game. Now, the last strategy, I'll very frankly tell you, it's not something I'm super happy recommending. Ideally, you should only use this if you feel that there's no way that, you're getting the percentiles required for XLRI. I personally do feel there is still enough time. But if you feel that, the difference in what you're getting using mocks and past papers is way low, or if there's a particular B school that you're targeting for some reason, and they take up your XAT score and they don't look at your sectional cutoffs, then you can go with this strategy where you are targeting an overall high score. Here, what you do is you spend a little extra time on whichever is your strongest section. Again, this would probably be either verbal or quant. And then you take up 40 minutes or a little more for decision making, a little extra if your reading speed is a little slow, or, in that paper, if the DM questions are particularly hard or something like that. And then you spend about 40 minutes in whichever is the remaining section. So again, this could be either verbal or quant. And then you have 30 minutes, where you can go back to individual sections or mark for review questions. This, again, I'm repeating, is not a strategy I'm very happy recommending. Use it only if you're very, very sure that XLRI is somewhere, totally out. And if that is the case, again, I would recommend, rather than going with this strategy, it's better that you put in the time and effort preparing, and if needed, take up CAT or XAT next year. I'll link a video which I've put up around why this makes sense for you, right? And hopefully that helps to motivate you. But this is a strategy which I want to just put out so that you could use it if needed. Right. So definitely take up mocks. Try out the first and the second strategy. See what works better for you, where you're more comfortable, where you're getting a higher score, where you're able to maximize the number of questions that you take up, and probably go with that. Be a little bit flexible, but have that in mind when it comes to the XAT exam. Now, what are the things which you should be preparing? Assuming that you have put in the prep for CAT and maybe even for exams like SNAP and NMAT. And again, by the way, if you're taking up SNAP or NMAT, there are detailed strategy videos which I have shot. So I will put those for you in the description and the first pinned comment as well. But coming back to the XAT prep, these are the areas that you should prepare. Now, when it comes to the verbal section, vocabulary and grammar is new. I would recommend focusing on grammar. Vocabulary is something which will probably come up in questions like fill in the blanks. And over the years, I've seen them be more logical rather than going for tough words. The other thing, of course, is, preparing for vocabulary in a few short weeks. What are you going to do? You cannot mug up all of the words, which are there in the dictionary. Maybe you can look at things like idioms and all. This will also help you with inference and RCs, of course. But grammar, if you know the roots, then either you can solve the question, or if it's super hard, or there's some rule you haven't prepared for, you might not be able to. So it's a much better investment on time. Inference, or critical reasoning as it is sometimes called, is also something which you can practice. Now, we of course have a lot of practice questions if you're a student, but in case if you're just watching this on YouTube, then just start with the past papers. But one thing you have to do is using options. See, when it comes to questions like jumbled paragraphs, fill in the blanks and all, the options are going to help you. In fact, I quite frankly feel that even for the poem which you have, right, the options, for me, always the options have helped me to figure out what the poem itself means, because typically it's a symbolic or an allegorical poem, right? So especially when it comes to jumbled paragraphs, say you have 3 options which start with D and 2 options which start with C, then don't read the questions, the sentences in order, right? Start with reading C or D and figuring out which one could be the starting sentence. Again, when you have fill in the blanks and all, a lot of the times for one of the blanks, there's only going to be 1 or 2 options which have a suitable question. suitable word. So then in that case, you can easily eliminate the other options. For grammar also, right? So if you know that, the first sentence is correct, assuming the question is asking you which is correct, and you have two options, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 3, 5, you just need to read 2, 3 and 5 to figure out which is the right option. You don't even need to read the other options, and that saves you some amount of time. So definitely practice using up the options in practice questions, mocks, past papers. It's going to be more useful than you might be giving it credit for. Now, when it comes to DM, of course, you have to put in a lot of preparation. There are quite a few rules which you can consider. Now, we are going to have detailed videos on this, so I'm not delving too deep into this. But one good thing to start with will be the past papers, right? So if you look at the last few years' papers, you will start getting a good understanding of what is it that they are looking for. And you'll also start understanding how much you are scoring and how much you need to improve, or can this even be a section where you're getting a very high score. Now, when it comes to quant, the syllabus is similar to what we've had in CAT. You can prioritize arithmetic, algebra, and geometry as usual, but make sure that you're preparing for DI also. Now, over the last few years, we've had 2 and 3 question DI cases. These haven't been like, just calculations where, you have graphs and charts and you just need to calculate and find the answer, like we've sometimes seen in NMAT. The interpretation part is definitely there, and now expected to be there all the more given that they've introduced a calculator. So again, just start with practicing the past papers and whatever content you have. So if you're a student, again, the DI lessons is something which will help you out here, but whatever content you have will be good. One thing which is most important, I would say, is working on your test strategy, using the past year papers, taking it in a full mock format as well as mocks. So do take this up, and if you're finding the strategies useful, then let us know in the comments. If you have any other questions also, you can let us know in the comments. We'll either help you out or we will put up another video for it if needed. And stay tuned for the DM videos, of course. All the best.